Sometimes I feel like I'm the only person that remembers certain things from the blog era. Does anyone remember when Kendrick Lamar completely blurred the lines? What it means to drop a mixtape, what it means to drop an EP, what it means to even drop an album.
Got all these niggas approaching they mixtape different.
Does anyone remember when Kendrick Lamar dropped the Kendrick Lamar EP? Let's ask ourselves, what is an EP? EP, an extended play, music or recording, contains more tracks than a single, but fewer tracks than an album. Contemporary EPs generally contain up to 8 tracks and have a playing time of 15 to 30 minutes. Kendrick Lamar dropped, and I've never seen anything like this before, up to 8 tracks and have a playing time of 15 to 30 minutes. Kendrick Lamar drops the Kendrick Lamar EP, which is like the formal way he transitioned from being known as K-Dot to being known as Kendrick Lamar. Yo, this thing is over an hour long. This is 15 songs, 14 songs and a bonus track. Like, in what way is this an EP? An EP is usually less cohesive than an album and more non-committal. 14 songs and a bonus track. This is a very cohesive project. You've got some of Kendrick's best songs on here. PMP, I Wanna Be Heard, Vanity Slaves. Kendrick even mentions how outrageous it was to drop an EP that's over an hour long with 15 songs on the Heart Part 2 when he says,
they said 7 tracks, I said 15, called it an EP, they said I'm tripping.
So Kendrick completely knew what he was doing, right? He doesn't stop there. Do you guys remember when Overly Dedicated by Kendrick Lamar came out? Overly Dedicated dropped, it came out on iTunes, right? So we're thinking, okay, this is an album. In 2010, the definitions of mixtapes and albums, they were more defined than what they are today. There was more differentiating factors. A mixtape, usually you're rapping over somebody else's beats, or maybe you just have a couple industry beats you rapped over, but then you got some original work there. A mixtape, at least in 2009, 2010, usually it would mean that, hey, I've got someone else's beats on here, and usually it's free. You put it out for free because you have someone else's beats on there, right? You can't sell that. Somebody tell me why Kendrick, when he came out with OD, it's for sale on iTunes, right? It was for sale originally on iTunes. Is the very first song, The Heart Part 2, not using someone else's beat, Piece of Light by The Roots?
Sitting in the studio thinking about which move would go right now, freestyle or right down.
So it's like, and then Kendrick goes on OD and he remixes PNP from EP, from the Kendrick Lamar EP. He remixes that. This is like, so he and Absol re-rap over this beat and they add an outro part to it.
I'm going through something with life, but pussy and Patron make you feel alright. I'm going through something in life, but pussy and Patron make you feel alright.
And by the way, doesn't PNP by Kendrick Lamar use the same beat as The Roots, A Clock with No Hands?
I used to have a 9 to 5, fresh out of school, that was 05, that bitch was racist, got me fired.
So this is a mixtape, right? But we're selling it on iTunes. Like, do you guys see what I'm getting at here? But they're doing mixtape things with something that's presented as an album. It's for sale on iTunes. Name me any other mixtapes from that time that were for sale on iTunes. So is this an album? It's in the iTunes album section, but you've got other people's beats on there, and then you're remixing your own songs. Like, but Kendrick did not stop there, right? He's already redefined what an EP means. EP is not, it's not just a little 15, 30 minute, up to 8 tracks. It's not that anymore. Kendrick Lamar, yo, I got 14 songs and a bonus track, and this is over an hour long. EP is probably longer than any of Kendrick's albums. But then what does Kendrick go and do? We've got Kendrick Lamar EP, we've got Overly Dedicated, Section 80, right? If you were there, you remember Section 80. This was being promoted as Kendrick's debut album. Some sources still call this Kendrick's debut album. It's not a mixtape, even for that time standards. It's all original production. It's for sale on iTunes. I'm pretty sure there were physical versions for sale too. This has the album treatment. Section 80 has the album treatment.
This is the first single off your upcoming project, Section 80.
Yes, sir.
For those who don't know, what's
Yes,
Section
sir.
80, why Section 80,
Section
why you
80.
call your album that?
I can't give it away yet.
Section 80,
Section
why you
80.
call your album that? Why you
Section
call
80.
your album that?
Cool, right? We're all on the understanding that at the time, Section 80 was an album. Then when Good Kid, Mad City comes out, what is Top Dog and Kendrick calling this? Oh, this is actually my debut album. What? So what was Section 80 a mixtape? But no one was calling it a mixtape. People were referring it to an album. as an album. When Kendrick's getting interviewed, people are calling it an album.
Section 80, why you call your album that? Album.
People in the comments are saying, this is going to be a great album. Section 80 was promoted as an album. But then Good Kid, Mad City starts getting promoted for its release. And now this is Kendrick's debut album. And Kendrick is even in an interview perplexed about this.
From what I heard before, it was supposed to be called Good Kid in the Bad City or something like that.
That's probably be my first official.
Okay.
I'm still in the air with the title, but official.
Kendrick himself is not even really sure. Like, yeah, Section 80, that was, the thing within Good Kid, Mad City. This is my official album. It's like, yo. So this is just something I think that doesn't really get talked about much in the hip hop spaces, but it's something I remember. I remember being and to this day, so confused. Every year or so, I'll have a debate about Section 80. I think Section 80 is Kendrick's debut album because that's how it was treated when it came out. He toured on it. I remember going to a show at the Glass House in Pomona. It was Kendrick, Schoolboy Q, Absol, Jhené Aiko, 2011, Pomona, Glass House. And he was performing the tracks from Section 80 like you would go on tour for your album. It seems when you watch interviews and you look at media from that time, everyone's under the impression that Section 80 is an album. Then Good Kid, Mad City comes out. Now this is his debut album. And then what about Overly Dedicated? That had the Roots beat on it and has some other beats on there, but it's for sale on iTunes. So was that a mixtape or it's in the iTunes album section? And then the Kendrick Lamar EP, which is the most egregious of them all. To call that an EP is crazy. 14 songs, a bonus track, 15 songs total, an hour plus, cohesive, great piece of work. I think Kendrick even found the humor in it.
They said 7 tracks, I said 15, called it an EP. They said I'm tripping.
But yeah, I guess the proper question is, what do you guys refer to as Kendrick's first album? Is it OD? Or is it EP? Because is EP, can we even call this an EP based on the standard definition of EP? It's the Kendrick Lamar EP, Kendrick's first album. Is it OD? Is it Section 80? Or is it Good Kid, Mad City? The Good Kid, Mad City. So, I mean, obviously at the time, as time went on, the difference between a mixtape and an album, it became so muddied. I would say like around 2012-ish, 2013, artists were basically dropping full-length projects, all original production, no DJ on it. Because you remember, mixtapes, they also had a lot of DJs, DJ Holiday, DJ Drama, they used to host these mixtapes. Over time, the difference between a mixtape and an album became so muddy that it's like they're just like a rapper will put out a project full of all original production, all original beats, no remixes, all, cohesive, and they would just call it a mixtape and put it out for free. So yeah, over time, I understand that the difference between a mixtape and an album became more muddied. But in 09, 10, 11, it wasn't as muddy. If your project had someone else's beat on it, you're rapping over another beat, an industry beat, more than likely we're going to call that a mixtape. And if your project has all original production and it's been promoted and it's for sale, really the for sale thing was a huge part. If it's for sale, then we're calling that an album. So I don't know. What's Kendrick Lamar's first album? If I had to choose, I would say his first album, I would pick Section 80. And that's also one of my favorite Kendrick albums. So anyway, that's all I got for today. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Top5rapwebsite.com. Peace.